All right, hey everybody, TG here. Let's see, it's November 15th. We are halfway through the month, and we have some sales coming up. So just want to make sure everybody knows about that. We've got good Black Friday sales. I would imagine we got a lot of people out there who enjoy Black Friday sales. I know my wife sure does. So we want to make sure you guys know about this. And we got the information is going to be in the link down below, description of the video here. And the code is BFS, so Black Friday Sale 23. But yeah, all the information here is here. You can see there's the code right there. And yeah, we got a few more days. The Moxie room is on sale. We got some of the classes that are on sale. We got all sorts of stuff. So yep, right here, that's right there, the Moxie indicator for me, if you guys are interested. So yeah, come on, hit it up and check out and see if there's anything in the area that you guys want to pick up. All right, now as far as the market goes, and brighter side, I see your comments out there too. And yeah, I need to get to your email. It's been a bit of a busy week, so we're still working on the remodel here, and basically hanging out in the garage while our kitchen's getting redone and everything like that. But it's been all hands on deck. Our contractor, he's got a truck that the rear brakes were basically going out, and so he had the parts, and I've been helping him out trying to change those out. So I've been very busy working on the house and trucks at the same time. But yeah, this market is, as you said, seriously outer space, which is very true because you can see that the S&P is way up here outside of the third ATR, and the market doesn't usually stay up there for very long, but it can hold for a bit, and we can see maybe a flag because it needs eventually it's going to have to resolve that condition. So this when we get moves like this, it kind of reminds me a little bit of, say, 2020, because during 2020, we saw that the indexes or the mega caps, they were going up, sure. But it was the small caps and it was some of the other crazier names that were just really on an absolute tear, even though maybe it didn't look like it on the surface. It was below the surface that things were actually really, really moving. So we've started to finally see that now that we've got, again, I know it's like a broken record, more news that interest rates are going to starting to get cut in 2024. Something that UBS came out and said, I heard they say 3 percentage points of a cut. That's pretty big. So I don't know if they're going to do that much, but basically that news has the market pretty much on fire. And it took a while for the rest of the market to catch up. Here's something to really see, and this is the difference between, say, the mega caps and the small caps. So, and we can look at the SPY because the SPY is, somewhere in the middle. So the SPY basically took its time and it flagged into the hourly 50 and then jumped up. Now, notice what the IWM did. And this is more of what I was expecting from the rest of the market. Notice how the IWM from this point, it didn't flag sideways into the 50 like the SPY did. It came down into the 50. This is a big difference. This is a little bit more of this setup that I was looking for as far as individual names. Because when it's kind of up like this and then flags like that, sometimes it's a little hard to catch them because they're just so overbought at the time. So setting them up something like this was better. And we saw the internals do the same thing for a bit. And then we saw a fair amount of names also pulling back and then moving up. And those are the names that we started to catch. And today's a good day for us. So we have quite a few names that are up nicely because obviously the IWM is up even more. And so this looks like a pretty good green light to me. And this is what I've been looking for. In fact, I wanted to get some of the slides up from my Orlando Money Show because I wanted to show you guys some of the things that I was talking about. Because the Money Show for us was over Halloween weekend. So if we look at this, that was like Halloween weekend. I started giving presentations, I think, on the 29th and the 30th. So right around there. So if we look at that day, 29th and 30th, where were we? Right there. That was the bottom of the market that I was out there starting to give some presentations. It had been 3 months that this market was pulling back. And, it was a lot of people were no, not happy about the market. We were all kind of saying the same thing, like, yeah, like, look, it's pretty tough. Nothing's working. It's been 3 months. Like, wow, is this thing going to get worse? Is it going to fall apart? And I made the case that I said, I think a lot of this actually, we're getting spring loaded to the point where we should actually see the market start to move back up. I think everything was ready for it. We just needed to wait for some sort of trigger. And that trigger was kind of a 1, 2, 3 scenario. Number one, it was, I think, technicals. We put in a little bit of an inverse head and shoulder right there. Number two was Jerome Powell with the FOMC that started to move up like that. And I think even maybe the second day. And then kind of in this area, even though the IWM doesn't show it, but this was earnings week. And we had a lot of names that started to actually pop straight up on earnings. Now, of course, there were a lot of names that also didn't do well and went down in big ways. But we started to see kind of well, maybe not an unusual, but something noteworthy about a lot of names that were starting to pop up on earnings. And you're like, ooh, something's going on. It seems like maybe something has been mispriced and the market is having to readapt. And then, so we get this pullback. And then what do we get for these couple of days? Well, the UBS news about the Fed cutting interest rates sometime in 2024. Now, it's just news. Obviously, it hasn't happened. They haven't changed their stance or anything. But the kind of the news is that, yes, they are starting to see that things are working with their higher interest rates. Things are starting to slow down. And maybe they're starting to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel about reducing interest rates. And the market loves it. So for now, that's what we're going with. And we also have a lot of fuel to burn to keep this fire going because we have the high put call ratio and because breadth was super low. So that's how we started to see some of these things. Yeah, and then brighter side with we're seeing things like this AI. We went in on this as well. Notice some of the things that happen. This is what for the Moxie indicator we look at. Notice right there, price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above zero. That's a trampoline move. And that's the kind of pullback that I'm looking for because just like the IWM last week, when we got a big move to the upside, I consider that basically to just be the first move. What we want to see is then the second move. All right. So it's the second move of price pulling back into an uptrending moving average. This first move right here was just when price was able to break resistance. I want to see confirmation, and that's what we're getting in through there. And so that's why we were able to then jump in and take AI. So yeah, I saw your email was about that. I do agree that AI was a good name. Now, brighter side, I think also, I don't know if we were talking about the NASDAQ, a few weeks ago and how this market was moving down. And I think it was something right around here that you and I were both kind of looking for the market to move up. And I think you were saying that you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I quite believe this move. And I said, well, we've got a lot of things in place and we're getting darn close to this actually going. So I think both you and I were right. We were just right at different times. And that is really honestly what makes a market. So you were correct. This was not the move. And then eventually I was correct that I said, hey, this thing is getting pretty darn spring loaded to the upside. And we just have to figure out when is the market going to launch. So yeah, you got the first one in through here. And then we came down, retested this trend line. The put call ratio was super high, breadth was super low, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, we got that fire to the upside. And this is really what I was looking for. So when you and I were having that conversation over email, and I was kind of in this area looking like, hey, this could be it. We're looking for a retest, something like that. What I was looking for was basically this giant move that we ended up having, and I knew it was in there. It's just a matter of like, okay, when is this thing going to finally actually trigger? The other thing that we could look at that was kind of helping that was if you look at breadth. So notice, and this is important, that breadth made a higher low right there. When the market, I'll go back over here, when the market made a lower low, okay? That was the next clue. So that was a big clue. So right there, okay? If you guys look for divergences, that's one of the divergences that we look for, and that's how we do it. Mark, let's see. Do I think you would be chasing if we got into AI right now? It's going to be, I'm going to say yes and no. Yeah, this is probably not the greatest place to be getting in. Number one, because we are outside of we've been outside of the hourly third ATR, and then we are starting to get towards the third ATR on the daily chart. Now, if this market is actually pretty strong, and I do think it is, I do think at some point you'll get a pullback or a flag, and so I think that there will be a better opportunity. But if you want to get in on this, and just in case it does push up a little bit, I think you need to don't go doing a full size right here right now. If you really want to get in, I would just maybe do a quarter or a half size just to kind of quiet your busy hands, because trust me, I feel the same way. We're seeing a lot of FOMO out there. This is why the market's gone straight up, is because FOMO, short covering, and people having to just pivot and fix this whole big thing right now because a lot of people were positioned incorrectly. So I do think we're going to be, I think we're going to be doing this for a while, several weeks, if not, well, definitely into the end of the year, and finding those right opportunities. So I think number one, if you need to just kind of do something and get in, okay, you can put on a small position here. But then you need to be prepared that there could be just another little dip like that sometime in the future. And maybe it's not too much, but it's just enough that you get a better price. It might only last 1, 2, or 3 days, and then we go back up. And so that, and what you can do, Mark, is also when you put on that starter position, it means now you're watching it. And you're really watching this thing. You can see exactly what the stock is doing because you're watching your position and seeing how that works. And you just need to then look for that dip. Let me see if I can kind of find some examples. And brighter side to this, to your point, you're wondering, if we're going to actually see a pullback to fix all this. Yes, there are always pullbacks. Even back in 2020, there were pullbacks. Okay, so they're always going to be there. It's just a matter of when and how big and what are they going to look like. But even in 2020, you see that third ATR, there was a pullback. Third ATR, there was a little pullback. Third ATR, outside of third ATR, there was a bigger pullback. And again, third ATR, there was a pullback. Third ATR, pullback. Okay, so even on the big thing, even here, like when the IWM really, really went crazy back on election day, look at this. You see how price went outside of third ATR and what happened. And Mark, I'm really talking to you too, because look at AI. I'm just talking, there could be just a little bit of a pullback or even a flag. But you see what it did is it jumped up like that, and then it came back down, and look what it did. Took a little bit of a dip right to the 8 EMA and then carried on. And basically anytime it got a little bit overbought, it came in. A little overbought, came back in, a little bit, came back in. And you can see how it basically did this channel between the third ATR and the 8 EMA. So that's what I'm trying to say with AI is, and maybe you're trading stock, so maybe it doesn't matter too much, but if you're trading options and you're buying an option here or here, there could be a big difference in premium from maybe just letting it settle down a day or two and kind of getting it on a quiet low day like that, or even a quiet low day there versus up here or versus up here. Little details of that, because I know a lot of you guys trade options. I don't, and that's something that you can work with. And if you go back to say AI and we zoom in on this, so let's just say, right here, well, maybe not the most ideal, but what if it just kind of settled down a little bit and just did this and then went back up? Would that be just a little bit better? And if we did that, from this point, it's only 5%, maybe 5%. Not a huge deal for stock, but that could be 20 or 30% for an option, and that could make some difference. So I would just be a little bit cautious up here, be a little bit patient, and see if there's an opportunity to get in. You should be able to recognize when that happens, because it's the same thing. Like, what about here? Would that have been the most ideal place to get in? No, probably not. And look what did. We finally got a little bit of a low, and then we got to move up. So let me see if there are some other tickers that I can kind of talk to. But yeah, we've got it. We picked up a few names yesterday and the day before, so we're pretty happy about that, doing well. For example, like look at unit. This is another one we kind of talked about. Remember here, is that the best place to buy? Is this the best place to buy? No, not really. And look what it did. Came down. There was a bit of a pullback. Same thing. Is this the best place? Maybe not. Maybe it comes up a little bit further, but there might also still be another pullback until you get something. So there are always pullbacks. The market never goes straight up. We can even look back over here. Take a look at this. If you want to just kind of see the things that I point out that might help you out, third ATR, where you at, third ATR, and what it do? Pulled back. There's a pullback here. Well, let's see. That was a bigger pullback. Even here, pullback. So they're all over the place. And if you don't think it's going to come all the way back to the hourly 50, well, then maybe what you're looking for is a pullback to the hourly 21, something around there. There are always pullbacks. And then let's see, Brighter say going back to you with the IWM. Let's see, looking at the weekly. Yeah, okay, looking at this as a false move up, the weekly and daily upside down can both be argued as having a weekly 200 and a daily 200 backstops. Well, let's not worry about this being upside down, okay? I know we do that trick sometimes. I don't think this is one of those cases where it would be beneficial to us because, turning it upside down and trying to say like, oh, the short side is what's really happening, it may not be the case. So yeah, the IWM has been a little challenging, but here's an argument. You could say that, I can kind of do this. Let's see if I can get close enough to 0. Yeah, we'll call it that. Anyway, the IWM could say that it had an undercut and this could be a rally. The market's weird like that. The market wants to come down, actually make new lows, trigger some stops, get people on the bear side, and then it flips the other way. So there could be an argument that this is going to be a undercut and rally. Notice the stochastic all the way down at the bottom. And then we come back over here to the daily. Yes, it's got some work to do. Maybe we're going to be talking about a 50, 200, 50 maneuver at some point. Kind of like what we saw back here. Same thing, 50, 250 right there. So sure, there's a pullback. But I'd be real cautious about thinking we should go short. The amount of energy, and if you look at the mega caps, the amount of energy, and if you look at the SPY, or you look at the NASDAQ, what did we do? This is a clear break of trend. And this is what look at this channel. Look at this channel. And this is what we've been talking about like for a week or so, a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks in the options room. I was looking for price to break out of this channel. And we did. This is really, really hard to argue that this is a false move and that it's not going to go anywhere. Now, maybe the end of the move will happen when the 10-day moving average of the put call ratio gets down to 7, 0.7, or the 50-day SMA breadth gets up to 90. Yeah, that'll probably be the end of the move, but we're not there yet. We still got a long ways to go until that happens. So yes, there could be a pullback. We're looking for it. Going to see what that entails. Could also just mostly be a flag. We first need to see price get down to probably the daily 8 EMA, and then we'll have to see from there. But I would be in kind of a buy the dip mode because some of the names that we're in that are doing well, look at IonQ continues to push. Definitely continues to push. IonQ, Tesla, IWM, and a couple other names all had the same exact pattern. They all had trampoline moves. Price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0. So sure, expect pullbacks, but I think things are going to keep going. And look at interest rate sensitive type stocks. Like Open, any of the housing stuff, maybe even Bitcoin. We're starting to see some of the Bitcoin stuff wake up, which I've been very cautious about. Not sure about the Bitcoin miners, but they are starting to move a little bit today. So I want to see if we start getting out of these downtrends and actually start moving up for something like Open Door, Redfin. If you look at the Bitcoin miners, they look like they're trying. I just didn't know how thrilled I could be about them, but Mara pretty much looks the best. Coin, not a miner, but it is Bitcoin related. It is the best of the Bitcoin related stocks. Riot might be second best as far as the miners. Still kind of struggling a little bit there. Hut, not so great. You can see it's definitely come down. So the miners are kind of a mixed bag for me. And that's why I'm a little bit cautious about going on it. Well, and yeah, Nick, the TLT and the TNX are pretty much the big reasons as to why the market is moving up. Now remember, when I talked about TNX and TLT, this was part of my thing. Like when I was in Orlando at the Money Show talking about this and giving my presentations, I said, look at these 30 ATR, look at the TLT outside of these 30 ATRs. I said it's due at some point for price to start coming back in. TNX to come down, TLT to go up, and that's going to allow the market to breathe. It's going to let the market go up because the market does not like when TLT goes down and TNX goes up. So we're looking for those to come in for these reasons. And yeah, I think that they are starting to come in. Now, are they going to go anyplace? I don't know. Do they need to? I don't think so. Because if you look, yes, there was an up move, but then it was sideways. Yes, there was an up move, and then you can see here it was mostly up to sideways. So they didn't really need to go anywhere in order to allow the market to go up. They just needed to pause. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the idea that yes, there could be a little bit of an up, but more sideways for TLT and TNX. It would be just fine in order for the market to have some breathing room and move up. I can't say if they're ready to change trend yet or anything else like that. It's way too early, but I think that's enough to allow the market to do what it's doing right now for some time. So I think we've got several weeks of kind of buy the dip type stuff going on. Yeah, so that Nick also most of the cryptos like Riot, Mara, Hut all look like AI, and that's why I'm looking at them. But I'm just they seem to be laggards. They aren't really quite moving very well, and they are not moving in relation to Bitcoin. So as I said, I've been very hesitant to trade them. But yes, they do look from a chart structural standpoint. They do look a lot like AI, and of course AI is doing well. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to be wrapping it up there. And remember, let me see if I got it up over here. We've got Black Friday sales coming up. We'll be talking about these, making sure you guys remember them. You got 8 days to make your decision. Go on a shopping spree. I got to start figuring out what, through Amazon or wherever else there might be some, probably some home stuff. We're remodeling our house, and so maybe we'll see if we can find some good deals for Black Friday to help furnish our home after the remodel. But remember, BFS 23, and come save some money with us. All right, guys. Thanks again. And for those in the Moxie room, I'll be back in the options room and Moxie in, well, a little less than an hour. We'll see you guys then. Take care.